for the monster, the cretin who murdered 5-year-old Nevaeh Buchanan. Remnants of a fire and a partially burned latex surgical glove were reportedly found at the crime scene. This is new stuff. Both items discovered by the very same man who sat for hours unknowingly fishing on top of the shallow grave where little Nevaeh's body was hidden with a layer of quick, dry cement. That fisherman finally chipped away accidentally at the cement and then discovered her badly decomposed remains. Did the little girl's calculating and yet careless killer try to destroy evidence with that fire? Crime lab technicians in Michigan are furiously analyzing all of this evidence, including a cigarette butt and also a beer can reportedly found with the remains. Those items could contain valuable saliva and DNA specimens, prints, etc., that could lead cops to the child's murderer. We hope. A big question, will they get a match to those two sex offender friends of the mother of the dead child who are persons of interest? Meantime, Nevaeh's family begins the gut-wrenching chore of preparing to bury their precious child. Her great aunt speaking out about the hunt for little Nevaeh's killer.
I hope, pray to God, that ever who did this will either turn themselves in, and I hope, pray to God, that they find whatever they need to look for.
As for the two sex offenders, both pals of Nevaeh's mom, Jennifer, they are off to state prison to finish off long prison sentences. They admitted they violated their parole by hanging out with a child who is now dead. Are they still under suspicion in Nevaeh's murder? Are cops waiting on the DNA and possible prints for the beer can, the cigarette butt, and the latex glove to either clear them or accuse them? Straight out to my fantastic panel, Curtis Lee, founder of the Guardian Angels, J.D. Weintraub, criminal defense attorney, David Schwartz, criminal defense attorney and former New York prosecutor, Rebecca Rose Woodland, criminal defense attorney, and Dave Murray, special assignments editor with the Toledo Blade. Dave, you have been tracking this case. What is the very latest?
Well, Jane, as the family of Nevaeh gets ready to bury their little girl, you're right, police are pouring over lots of evidence. We reported it. They found a partially burnt latex glove at the scene of the shallow grave. Fishermen pointed this out to our reporters, and they've also reported it out to police. They've seized the glove and all other evidence. And you can imagine the number of police officers who are looking at this and others trying to find this killer. But the aunt's suggestion that she hopes that this guy turns himself in, or whoever the perpetrator is, I think is unrealistic. By using the glove, it's clear that he or she was very premeditated in what they were doing. They did not want to leave any track.
Well, absolutely. Curtis Sliwa, when you're making quick, dry cement, I've actually, believe it or not, done that once. You know, it sticks to your hand very easily, so you want to wear latex gloves so that the cement doesn't stick. So then they take off the latex gloves. It's partially burned. They're trying to destroy the evidence of the gloves in the fire.
Oh, no question. But, you know, my first question, Jane, would be either of the two guys who violated patrol, the sex deviants, have any of them ever had work in the field of cement? You know, pouring it, laying it, squashing it out? I mean, I would say immediately it's got to be somebody who's kind of used to using quick-drying cement or cement in general. That might be a clue right there.
Well, let me go back to Dave Murray, because my understanding is at least one of the criminologists who's been commenting on this case for HLN suggested that George Kennedy might have had a history of working with cement.
Oh, Jane, we don't know that, but I can tell you this is very low-tech. You don't need to know how to work with cement to do what they've done to this little girl. You can buy what's called ready-mix concrete mix anywhere, at any Home Depot, at any Lowe's, at any hardware store. It's just a bag. And all they did, this was not mixed up and poured on the little girl. This was, they opened a bag and dumped it on top of her. That's what our reporters have found. That's what police have said. It's very easy to do. You did not have to have a construction background to do this.
All right, let's recap a review. The crime scene where Nevaeh's decomposed remains were discovered, ground zero for investigators. You see them there collecting forensic evidence tonight. Stunning reports that an empty beer can, a cigarette butt, remnants of a fire, a partially burned latex surgical glove, all found at the scene, along with the cement, the quick-dry cement covering the body. You know, that is a heck of a lot of evidence, Janie Weintraub, left behind that can really allow us to create almost a profile of what might have gone on there.
But I agree, but I do also think, Jane, that you're correct, that if George Kennedy does have a history of working with cement, I think that's going to be a little closer scrutiny for George Kennedy. But I do want to comment regarding the whole issue of sex offenders, and what I keep saying on these shows is we need to conserve the resources that we have as limited funds and economy dictates, and we have to really use the money to, we need to track the people that we think are really dangerous. Not every single sex offender is going to be dangerous. What we need to do is look at what the activity is that they've done, what they're convicted of, and we need to really track those people, because we don't have enough resources in any county or state to track every sex offender.
I agree.
And that's why these things keep happening.
Jane, I agree 100%. You stole my thunder, Jane. We have 600,000 registered sex offenders in this country, and only about 50, 60, 70,000 of them are really dangerous sex offenders. We've totally watered down the sex offender statute in every jurisdiction in this country. And what has happened? We've lost track. We're trying to track all 600,000 of them. We've watered down the resources. That was a great point. This is the exact problem that we're having.
Let me try to say this in English. You're saying that somebody who was, let's say, 18, who had consensual sex with a minor who was, let's say, 16, is put, and they were boyfriend and girlfriend, is put in the same category as some cretin who had sex with a 4-year-old and was sent away to the slammer. But there's various tiers. There's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3.
So yeah, everything is relative in life. Exactly, Jane, I agree. Well, how about the person that rubbed up against someone on a subway? Now they're sex offenders. There are people that are sex offenders that were caught urinating in public. This is ridiculous.
That may be, but what does that have to do here? Here we think we have 2 people. Now, we don't know, Jane. We're going to say, of course, they're innocent until proven guilty. But we have cigarette butts and we have a beer can. Let's hope the DNA of those items will match someone's DNA, and there'll be some, let's hope, of course we hope there's a confession, of course, but I mean we do have evidence there. But in this case, I mean, these 2, if it's one of these 2 men or both of them, they just got out of jail. There's not even time to track them.
They're back in jail. But
right, now they are. I'm saying
this is
they
what
had
it means.
just gotten out.
Jane, this is what it means. What it means, to answer your question, Rebecca, it means where was the parole officer? If it is one of these 2 people, why was Kennedy allowed to be near this girl in the first place? That's what it means.
They can't be on top of them.
Curtis Lewa, every time we hear a case like this, we always find out that this person was on parole or probation, and somehow nobody ever checked, and they're violating all the rules under the sun, which these 2 guys were, and they admitted it. That's why they're going back to finish off their sentences. They weren't supposed to have contact with kids. They were in Nevaeh's life. They weren't supposed to be near a park. The apartment that this woman lives at is right across. I mean, the list goes on and on. Where are the parole officers, Curtis?
Jane, I know many parole officers. They're overwhelmed with caseloads. They do checks, but it's spot checks. And by the way, this guy who's claiming, hey, we only got to worry about 50 to 60,000 of 600,000 sex offenders. I'll tell you what, maybe we'll put them on home incarceration in your house. You can expose them to your wife and kids.
Curtis.
Are you out of your mind?
I'm not out of my mind.
No, this is not all statutory rape cases.
Curtis, you're not listening.
Oh,
you're not
please.
listening. There's 60,000 rapists, dangerous sex offenders out there that we have to
That's the problem. It's not an either or. Sometimes they start slow and they work up to more serious crimes. Sit tight. Sit tight. More on the hunt for Nevaeh's killer in a minute. Do you think all this evidence we're hearing about, from the beer can to the latex glove, will provide the prints or the DNA that will lead to the killer? 1-877-JVM says. 1-877-586-7297. Let me know. Then, this